This is Beach Talk Radio.
Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. This is your captain speaking, Mean Gene. Mean Gene. The following will be a test of the ship's whistle, the sonar alarm, the cable alarm, and the atomic attack alarm.
Live from Peach Time Out in the heart of Times Square, you're listening to Beach Talk Radio with Kim and Ed Ryan.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 154. And we're coming to you live from Peach Time Out on Fort Myers Beach. A wacky, crazy, busy morning here on the beach. So if you're heading out to the beach today, you're already going to be parked in a line out there because it's a fabulous day out here. And it's busy as can be, and everybody is just clamoring to get outside and to have a good time. And they're having it here on the beach and having a nice breakfast. And before we get rolling here, we have a couple of things we need to take care of. Of course, we want to let everybody know that we are on YouTube, which you can subscribe to our YouTube page. We're also on Twitter and Instagram, and our news website, beachtalkradionews.com, where you can sign up for our free headlines, which come out on Tuesday and on Friday morning, right before 7 o'clock. And if you guys are listening, and can let me know the sounds okay. I'm stuttering a little bit today. I don't know what the deal is. Today? I'm sorry. Download our news app as well. We have an app. Yes, we've paid millions and millions of dollars for an app that you can download. And what happens when you download the app is you get news push notifications, like a real professional news station that doesn't say up in flames when things aren't really up in flames. You'll get news notifications with breaking news. And, of course, all of our sponsors. We would like to thank our sponsors because without them, we'd be nothing but a pile of mush sitting here in the corner, in the timeout corner. And that includes, ready, dear?
Yes.
Can you reel them off the top of your head or what?
I could do most of them, but you have a cheat sheet.
I do have a cheat sheet. Island Oils, of course. Tiki Tours, the Fort Myers Tiki Tours, Nervous Nellies, Margaritas, Wave of Vitality, State Insurance USA, Sun Palace Vacations, La Ola Restaurant, Tuckaway Cafe, Blue Ribbon Events, Sanibel Carts, Beach Pottery. Did I leave anyone out? I'm sure I left somebody out. Peach Time Out. Oh, yes, Peach Time Out. So come on down to Peach Time Out for a great breakfast. We have a killer show lined up for you today. We have John Cassani from the Calusa Waterkeeper and Jim Aderholt from the city of Fort Myers, or the town of Fort Myers. It's a city now. It's a city now. It's a town when, I guess, season's over. I mean, it's hugely busy right now. Jim will be coming up in the second half of the show. One thing we need to take care of right quick. We did it on Sunday last week, but I want to make sure that we do it today. Last week we had a great guest on. Every show is a great show, according to what you tell me on Saturday nights after a few rum and cokes. We had Mike Chinopoulos on, and Mike said something last week about Rogers. When Tracy Gore rammed in Rogers Rays 2 years ago, coming up in March 2 years ago, Mike accidentally said, because he was given bad information, that Anita with a hard T voted in favor of that. And then what we did last Saturday, because we don't have a life, we went back to the videotape and the audio tape, and we found the vote. And here is actually what happened that day. One of the fishingest bridges in the state of Florida. That's not it. That's Ray saying the fishingest bridge. But this is what happened at that meeting. Sorry. This is the vote that took place. Listen for Anita's voice.
To direct the mayor to execute.
That's Joanne Champ.
The attached draft employment agreement with the town manager with the change of the base salary compensation shall be $170,887.50.
That's his raise right there. They ran through.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
No. With
motion
my apologies,
carries
Roger.
3-1 with Councilmember Saracita voting no and Councilmember Butcher excused absence.
All right. So there you go. We wanted to make sure we corrected the record that Anita voted no on that when Mike thought that she voted yes. So all is clear now.
Are you okay today?
I don't know. I really am lacking a lot of sleep. I got up at 1 o'clock again this morning, and I thought I'll just go back to sleep. And my workout sucked at the gym too. So it's just one of those days.
Yeah.
So
I'm off too.
All
This
right,
will be
so
good.
our first guest is ready.
All
John
right.
Cassani.
Come
John
on
is
up,
the
John.
Calusa Water. We were hoping to have Daniel on from the Sun Deck. They had a big fire. Well, the NBC thought it was a big fire. NBC reported that it went up in flames, and really, it didn't go up in flames. It was just a fire, and we wanted to get an update
Well,
from him.
hopefully we can get
Yeah.
him on. And,
So if he strolls in, it's
Yeah.
crazy out there. Maybe he's stuck in traffic like you were.
well, maybe he's busy working at his place.
Hopefully everybody's
Yeah.
busy. John, how are you doing? John Cassani from Calusa Waterkeeper.
Hey guys, good morning. Thanks for the invite. Really
Good morning.
appreciate it.
Appreciate you coming
you
in.
are the Waterkeeper, right?
The Waterkeeper.
Yeah, since what is that? December 2016? Is that when you?
Right. Yeah, you guys did your homework.
Well, one of us always does.
She does her homework. So, John, first explain what Calusa Waterkeeper is and means.
Yeah, basically we're a clean water advocacy organization, and we fly under the flag of the Waterkeeper Alliance. So we, as Kim was saying, we were a full member organization of the Alliance in 2016, and so they set some standards for us, and we try to comply with those standards. We are a membership organization, so if you're interested in supporting what we do, you can become a member, and that helps us. So just throw out that crass commercial message right up front.
No,
So-
and we'll make sure to get all that information on how people can do that before you go. What
Wait a second. You're going to make sure that we get all that information
because
out,
you're
or
kind
I
of
am
off
gonna make
today,
sure?
so I am going to have to
Okay.
really keep track of things.
Thank you.
What does a Waterkeeper do, and what does the organization do?
Yeah, so my role as a waterkeeper, I wear a lot of different hats. You know, I engage policymakers. We do policy reform issues. We do outreach education. We train volunteers to monitor the water, to do some testing, and they take that information and it empowers the advocacy that we do. So if we have some factual information on why we're doing or concerned about clean water, that really helps.
And how did you? What is your experience in your background that led you into this position?
So personally, I've been here in Southwest Florida since 1978, and I've been the waterkeeper for about almost 5 years, going on 5 years. And I moved down from Michigan in 78, and my background is in aquatic sciences. I'm an aquatic ecologist, and I went to college in Michigan and moved down here working for local government as a water resource manager back then, and kind of been doing that ever since. So
when you say Waterkeeper, do you actually have water like in your backyard that you keep and test and the whole thing?
Here we go.
yeah, man, water is life. Water is our world, and everywhere I go, it seems like there's a water issue of some sort. And I think being right here on Fort Myers Beach, an island surrounded by water, is just a classic example of how important water is. It's, it affects the economy, affects our public health. So yeah, water's the thing. It's the thread that ties it all together.
So, John, let me ask you a dumb question. Why is it so difficult to keep the water clean? What is the problem with it just seems like it's so complicated that we can't keep the water clean?
Well, to me, it is pretty straightforward. I think, in a nutshell, and there's a lot of moving parts to it, growth is overwhelming our region. We have about 12,000 people moving to Lee County every year. That's twice the population of Fort Myers Beach every single year. So you can do some restoration projects and you can spend some taxpayer money doing those things. But if you don't have regulations, if you don't have enforcement, if you don't have a land use policy that addresses that growth, it's going to be one step forward, one step back. So you're not going to make the progress you need to make. And that's what people are seeing. They're finally seeing that water quality's really not improving. It's in some cases, it's actually getting worse, even though we're spending more money, taxpayer money, trying to restore the condition.
Having been here for a long period of time and watching things change, is there a point that you can sort of put your finger on where it really started getting not good, or has it just been a slow kind of deterioration, or how would you describe it?
Yeah, it's a great question, Kim. I think that people ask the same question over and over. You know, when did the tide turn on water in Florida? My observation over about the past 4 decades is about the last 10 to 12 years, we really began to see a serious decline. And after the economy, after the Great Recession, growth just exploded again. And, you know, local businesses, they see that is good, but what comes with that is these associated water quality problems.
Would you say Lee County is doing a good job in addressing the water quality or not?
You're referring to Lee County government?
Yes, of course. Yep.
Okay. Well, we just finished a study that looks at water quality impairment in Lee County. The number of water bodies that become verified impaired have increased 36% since 2018. So in 3 years, we're seeing a big jump in water quality impairment. Lee County's doing some good projects, but the bottom line is it's not enough. We're not doing enough to stem that tide that's related to this explosive growth that's coming to the region.
What could they do specifically to address the water as they grow? Everywhere. It seems like they're growing everywhere.
Yeah.
What do you want them to do?
Yeah, great question. And I wish I had a black and white answer, but to me, it's, getting your comprehensive plan a little more rigorous, establishing a future land use map that draws some boundaries of where, we don't want sprawl. Sprawl is really killing water quality in Lee County. And I remember driving south on I-75 back in the late 70s. You couldn't see any development east of I-75. Now it's a city east of I-75. So you've got to be able to control and have some degree of smart growth that manages that explosive growth.
So explain why the growth is affecting the water in a negative way.
So one of the straightforward things that we can tie to growth and water quality is roads, rooftops, sidewalks, parking lots. What brings the pollution to the receiving water is rainfall. Prior to all this urban development, more of that rainfall infiltrated into the ground. Now it runs off more directly and in higher volumes to these receiving waters. So it's the conveyance system that brings the pollutants from the urban landscape into the receiving water. And that's a big part of the problem. Fort Myers Beach has done some good stuff. They have a pervious parking lot at the library. Those are the kinds of things we need to be doing more of.
What does that mean? Tell people.
That means the rainwater can infiltrate into the ground rather than run off into the Gulf or Estero Bay. My big concern right now is if you've been watching what happened in Biscayne Bay this past summer, complete disaster.
What happened?
We had a fish kill that lasted for weeks and weeks. And I mean a massive fish kill.
From what?
It's from low dissolved oxygen that's driven by nutrient pollution. Same thing's happening to Estero Bay right now. So Estero Bay, the state declared Estero Bay verified impaired for nutrient pollution 2 years ago. And I got a bad feeling that might be something that's coming in the future. I hope not. We're working to try to avoid it, but that's something we need to keep an eye on.
The tributaries and stuff that feed the bay there, and that's where it's coming from. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the watershed for Estero Bay is Bonita Springs, it's Estero, it's unincorporated Lee County. And all those tributaries are designated as outstanding Florida waters. They're supposed to have the highest protection the state can provide. Every one of those tributaries now has some verified impairment, mostly for fecal bacteria and nutrients.
So fecal bacteria, sewage, and all of that goes with it. What can local people do? What can the state do in transferring? Because we've had people talk about this before, like septic to sewer. What can you talk about that?
Yeah, that's the next question that always comes when we start talking about fecal bacteria. And so the problem overall is these local governments have not invested adequately in their sewage infrastructure. They're too old. The capacity, they're exceeding capacity or approaching capacity. So it puts a lot of stress on the system. If there's a leak in the conveyance system or a lift station doesn't work, it's polluting these waters with raw sewage. And we're just seeing too much of that. And so we're trying to build some stakeholder groups to address that issue. And I think your next speaker, Jim, is a councilman here in Fort Myers Beach might be talking about that as well.
Right. So overall, what is your assessment of how local governments and the governor and the state legislature are doing to deal with the water issue? I mean, without water down here, we've got nothing.
Yeah. So if you look at the net change, if you look at all the factors that are affecting water quality, we're not doing good. It's getting worse in many areas than better. And what you're seeing other communities do, there's going to this right to clean water initiative. It brings a constitutional right to the waters to not be polluted. Orange County just voted for this referendum. They had an 89% plurality supporting the right to clean water. So what that does is it amends the city or the county charter in a way that gives more legal power to the people to protect these waters. Venice is looking at it. City of Sarasota is looking at it. Naples is looking at it. So people are fed up. They want clean water. Businesses need clean water, and it's important to our public health. So,
got a question from the live studio audience at home. Where does the human waste go to on the island? Do you know that question? Answer?
Well, I don't think there's too many septic tanks on Fort Myers Beach.
And there's 18 left on Sanibel from what we
There's
hear.
a few left, but not many. So the main wastewater conveyance system is the wastewater treatment plant and all the underground pipes that go to the wastewater treatment plant. So if you've got leaky pipes or if you've got spills frequently, that's the contamination that results from those problems with the infrastructure conveyance.
So the manatee issue of the last few days has been off the charts. I mean, what the hell's going on with the manatee? What are you guys doing killing all these manatee, John?
Yeah, I did a special Words from the Waterkeeper episode on this last month.
Wait, first of all, tell us what that is so everybody knows.
Yeah, about twice a month, I do a little video session, and we call it Words from the Waterkeeper. It's kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing, but it's really about some serious topics. And last month, we talked about manatee mortality. The mortality rate in January of this year is like 4 or 5 times the average over the January of the last 5 years. Something's going on with manatees right now. This mortality's carried over into February, and it's not looking good at all. So if it continues at this rate, we're going to see a big hunk of the manatee population expire in 2020, and we don't want that.
Have they documented what's causing is it boat strikes?
Great question.
No, it's not.
Question.
Well, it's not boat strikes. If you did your research, you know it's the lack of food in the water.
Letting him answer.
Ed, yeah, that's right, Ed. I think
Great answer.
Good answer.
Perfect answer. But
Thank you.
Here's the problem. The state's not doing necropsies on most of them. 70% aren't being necropsied, so we don't know why they're dying. And
So you don't know.
The answer to that is COVID. You know, the staff that do the necropsies, apparently they have a policy that says you can't do them necropsies if you have this COVID policy. So, you know, I'm not sure I'm buying all of that, but it is a growing problem. We need to be keeping an eye on it.
And what contributes to the lack of food that the manatees?
That's my favorite question of the morning, actually. Kim, you.
I'm crushing it today.
It gets back to this systemic problem with increasing water quality problems. The water is less transparent. There's less seagrass growing because there's not enough light to get to the seagrass. There's less food for manatees. And that's the problem in the estuary of the Calusa. So manatees have to swim from the Orange River all the way out to the Gulf or the San Carlos Bay to get grass. So that's a 25-mile, you know, that's a long way to go without avoiding a boat the entire way.
And those things weigh so much. It's not like they can swim fast, right?
No.
They're slow swimmers. It take them forever, 25 miles.
And I'm sure that's a lot of energy for them to expend than to get food and load up again.
Yeah, it's really sad. You know, the manatee population has actually increased over the last 10 or 12 years. It's actually recovered to a degree, but they're still vulnerable. You know, they delisted them from endangered to threatened about 4 years ago. So everybody was complaining about that. Hey, they're still vulnerable. And now we're seeing a perfect example where we get these cold spells and declining water qualities threatening the species again. So we need to pay attention to what's happening with these.
Now, I wanted to ask, so, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I did my last minute research. The Senate Bill 712, that is an environmental bill, correct? Okay. Did that go far enough? Are we headed in the right direction with that kind of legislature?
Yeah, it's positive. It's a step in the right direction, but what it's not accounting for the degree of growth, the landscape is changing in the water quality that results from that massive change. So yes, on paper it looks like, yeah, we're doing good things, but it's not comprehensive enough, and it's not, the funding isn't adequate. You know, we hear about the Everglades a lot, but there's a lot more waters in Florida other than the Everglades, and that's what's getting left behind as a result of the Senate Bill 712. There's also a Blue Green Algae Task Force.
Yep.
We have some issues with the task force. You know, they said they were going to develop defensible standards for cyanotoxins. They don't seem to be interested in doing that now. So those are some of the details coming out of the Senate Bill 712 that are not terribly encouraging. So we're keeping an eye on it, and we're trying to, that's what we do at Waterkeeper. We're trying to push the policy in the right direction to bring the most bang for the buck to the water.
So, John, there's your organization, there's Captains for Clean Water, there's this task force, there's Southwest Florida Water Management, there's this and that and the other thing. For the average person, or for people like me, below average, who do they know how to trust, and who do they know who's not politically motivated, and who do they know is not getting some bucks put in their back pocket? How the hell do you know who to go with here? Because, you know, if Red Tide shows up, nobody gives a shit about any organization. They only care about you guys crapped in our water.
Well, there's a lot of noise in the narrative now, and it's hard for people to kind of sort through that noise and try to figure out what's the right message. And so what we've done is taken a pretty conservative approach. You know, we pride ourselves on being science-based, fact-based. And when we go on social media, I'm almost always providing some water quality data or public health data to support what we're trying to say. It's not that the others don't. It's just, you know, I can only speak for ourselves, and we take pride in that. And we've received a couple of awards the last couple of years. We were the Nonprofit of the Year in Lee County in 2020. We were the Daughters of the American Revolution chapter Conservationist of the Year in 2020. And so a lot of people recognize that we make sense when we talk about water quality, and they've recognized it and acknowledged that with these recognitions lately. So we're humble, but we're really proud of the recognition that we've gotten over the past year or so.
So what do you want the average person, or in my case, the below average person, to do to stay involved or get involved in the water situation to keep the pressure on? I know Jim in the next half hour is going to tell us some things that folks can do to get in touch with their elected officials. But what else could they do? Not wash their roofs or yell at the county for so much growth? Or how do they get involved?
Yeah, Ed, you're all over this. I mean, you know it, and your questions really tell us how much you know about this issue. So, great question. Jim's going to come on and talk about what Fort Myers Beach can do, what the community here can do, and maybe even beyond that. And so it's about holding your elected officials accountable, and that's a big part of what I think Jim's going to be talking about. So, you know, these people that are doing these, these campaign, not campaign, but these policy forums, it's really important. People need to go to those, pay attention to those. And, you know, it's a troubling times with these deceptive narratives that are out there now.
Who's the most deceptive in your mind, so that people can avoid it?
I'm only half deceptive. So
Who's fully deceptive? Anybody? Anybody that we should avoid?
No, okay. I think all the conservation groups are, you know, they work on a shoestring budget. They're doing all they can. We work together in many respects. But where the deception comes in is from the political narrative. And that's where you're finding that our elected officials aren't just representing you. They're representing disproportionately some special interest groups. And that's what's deceptive from my point of view. Well,
and I think that we've talked about this before, you know, that the adage follow the money is, you know, plays a part, that you have to look into where campaign finance
takes too much
coming
time.
From.
Takes too much time for the average person to dig into that.
Right. And that's the issue.
I mean, that's super important. I mean, when you dig in and look at, and you discover the information for yourself, to me, that's a revelation.
Mhm.
You know, you trust yourself, obviously, and when you read and see and understand that this is potentially a problem, to me, that sticks with you. And so I encourage people to do that. The internet's a powerful tool. Social media is a powerful tool. You can use it to your advantage.
So grade the governor. A being the best, F being the worst.
Well, it was A to start with after his executive order, but the legislature's muddied the picture a little bit. You know, you're going to hear that we're spending a lot of your taxpayer money,
$400 million
things,
or something.
But when I see water quality impairment get increased 36% in Lee County since 2018, something's not working. So it's going to take a while, but the trends that we're seeing now are not encouraging.
Grade is what? What's the governor's grade?
I'm back down to about a C right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So,
I'm kind of in the middle now because I'm in the legislature. I think the legislature is the bigger problem, and I don't know how you disconnect the same party that's in the executive branch from the legislature.
Adam Botana, is he, oh, you're laughing.
No, I'm just laughing at myself a little bit, just trying to address these kind of troubling issues. It's you can never explain it all in a 2-minute soundbite kind of thing. But
okay, so how can people get in touch with you, follow you, watch your, what'd you call them, the Calusa minutes?
We call our volunteers the Rangers. We do a Ranger Academy. We're going to start another academy next month. So if you're interested, go to our website, Facebook page, and sign up for the academy. I think Adam, but you mentioned Adam, Representative Adam, and I think he's a boater. He's on the water a lot, so he knows the issues.
Right.
So we expect good things from Adam.
Yeah. Deliver, Adam. Deliver.
And there's also an Estero Bay. Didn't they just recently put out I was watching a video that was on the page about Estero Bay, and it's like an hour-long informational thing. It was
I'm so glad you brought that up. Our organization developed a documentary called Eternal Vigilance, and it will air on WGCU on April 22nd.
Very cool.
And we're super excited about it. It's all about Estero Bay and its tributaries. So please tune in, WGCU, April 22nd, Earth Day. So we'll be part of that celebration. Yeah.
Well, John, thanks so much for coming on. Anything we can do to help, please let us know to get the word out.
Anything else you want to include? Any other information you want to get out there?
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground, a lot to absorb. And I just want to say I appreciate the invite. Everybody here on the beach is great. And you guys are leaders down here. So thanks for doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I feel good about that. So, John, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for all the information you share with us, too. John Cassani, everybody, from the Calusa Waterkeeper. And before you read the ad, dear, we're going to have Daniel come on and give us an update. He came in. He's probably stuck in traffic there. And Daniel is from the Sun Deck Resort here on Fort Myers Beach. And for those of you that were watching the news or even watching our Facebook page, you saw what was going on down here at the Sun Deck. It looked like all of a sudden all the entire fire department was getting a workout. They were coming from every direction, and people thought there had to be some kind of giant thing going on. But we were talking about it yesterday, and we just figured you don't know what kind of traffic you're going to run into from this end. So they're coming from this end, they're coming from that end. But anyway, Daniel, thanks for coming on. What happened at your place?
Yeah, thanks for having me again. Well, we had a cigarette butt supposedly by a guest put into a huge flower pot with mulch, and then they started smoking up. I wasn't there on the time when it started. Apparently caused a lot of smoke, and this is why the fire department was called.
Sure.
And I mean, luckily, because you never know what's going to happen. And yeah, this was the official reason by the fire department.
So one of our roving reporters on the scene there said that it looked like they had a chainsaw in one of your rooms there. Was that?
The problem was to determine where the fire was. So the flower pot was kind of tossed over the deck. So there was mulch everywhere.
Oh.
And apparently the piece of the mulch that smoked was kind of eating into the wall. So therefore they kind of knocked off a little bit of a piece of the wall, and in that area smoke was coming out. So they thought it's in between the walls. So they cut open in between in between our penthouse. They cut open the floor to determine where the fire started or the smoke started. So, but then there was nothing.
So was this a guest, or is this somebody that walked by that intentionally messed with you?
The problem right now is we assume it was a guest. The problem right now is our camera system is completely offline because in the beginning everybody thought it's caused by an electric problem.
Shut the electric
FPL
off.
cut us off, so we don't even have electricity right now to start any. I mean, we can't start any repairs before we have a permit in and stuff. But we have contractors coming on Monday and giving us bits on the refurbishment, and then we'll go from there. But we need power as soon as possible.
Well,
we had an electricity inspection yesterday morning there that determined that it's absolutely safe to put the power back on. This was told to us by the town, and now it's weekend. I get it. We're waiting on that.
Yeah, but it's season. You think they would move that to the top of the list? So all your guests are out.
They promised that. The town was immediately on site and came the next morning as well. They were super helpful. Even with permits and stuff, they told us that we'll be on top of the list to get that done kind of as an emergency. I don't know the special terms for that, but they were super helpful. Chamber of Commerce, Jackie, super helpful. Really big thanks to her. She tried to help us relocate all the guests and everything. And obviously, big thanks to the fire department.
Oh yeah,
that was there so quick. I mean,
yeah.
When I arrived, it was scary. But then I know the building probably like nobody else, and I was like, it's probably nothing too big.
Yeah.
So I was kind of relieved, but had to be determined where it was coming from. And
so all your guests that were there in all the other rooms had to go.
We're empty. We have no electricity. We've been working there yesterday all day, and believe me, although it's not August, without AC, it's not very comfortable.
Man, what a nightmare.
Yeah.
So did you watch or hear the report on NBC? What the hell is going when the reporter says up in flames? We were watching what was going on there. I didn't see a single flame.
Wow.
Was there any flames?
There was no flames. It was smoke only. Nothing was on fire. I think we live in such a safe community that this is the headline news. When this is the headline news, I mean, you can at least see something positive in it, right?
No, I can't see anything positive in a jackass report like that where somebody says up in flames and we're like, wait, where were the flames? There was not a single flame going up in your place.
This is being reported the way it was. I don't even want to think about how it is on broader, bigger levels.
Right? Exactly. That's exactly what I thought. If you could do that,
exactly.
Because well, anyway. So, how you have insurance, or is it you're going to be okay? It's just this craziest time of the year. Everybody's so crowded.
Just
everybody
like last year with the lockdown. I mean, it kind of always comes to the peak season times. We of course have insurance. We are working with, I forgot what the real term is, but with kind of a lawyer that represents us in front of the insurance. We try to get that. Obviously, get some funds as soon as possible to. Right. Luckily, we were able to save up. We had a good summer. I think everybody did on this island. So we have kind of emergency funds for that. We can get straight to work. It's really that all the other partners, FPL, the town.
I can't believe there's not people over there now helping you. I mean, what the hell else are they doing? Isn't that what their job is to help people get back on their feet?
It starts with a contractor giving in a permit request, and we can't do that, and they can issue a permit without having a contractor. Now we don't have a contractor yet. You know, it's not even 48 hours after that.
Right.
So I mean, everybody's been super helpful. I'm super grateful for this like small beach community. Really, in an emergency like that, I think everybody.
Yeah, isn't it? I shouldn't say it like this, but isn't it cool when you have a fire at your place and Chief Love is just walking around making sure everything's okay? It's not, that's what this small community is about. You'd rather he's not there.
I'd rather prefer he would not come, would not have to come. Absolutely, but no, it was well handled by everybody inside, and we all try to work together. That's all you can do, like minimizing the damage, and trying to see where a fire could start or could have started. Yeah.
And for everybody that just tuning in had no idea what's going on, the place wasn't up in flames. It's the Sun Deck, which is kind of under the bridge on the way to Matanzas and on that road down there, Crescent Street, right?
Key West, Crescent and 3rd, kind of Key West style.
So listen, when Daniel gets back open, make sure that you stay in his place if you can. If you're looking for, it's walking distance from Times Square, from SOB, from Nervous Nellies, from Matanzas, and And you just bought the place, for crying out loud. It's not even a year, right?
1st of February last year. Yeah, it's interesting times. I mean, it's really
shit happens.
Shit happens. I mean, I can cry now and
right.
be
I'd be
miserable,
crying.
but I gotta look to the
I
future.
wouldn't have showed up for the show today. I would have been home crying.
No, we have a full March booked. We have half of April. I have half of April already booked. We have a lot of guests to make happy, so we want to be back on track as soon as possible and make sure everything is safe and secure. And some of the rooms will have some updates.
Yeah. Right. Modernizing them, right? Well, thanks for coming on. Anything we can do when you're open, let us know, and we'll put it out there. So, all right, everybody. Daniel owns the Sun Deck. Thanks for coming down. We know you got a lot of work to do, so we appreciate your time. And before we get Jim Aderholt on, dear, we're going to make sure everybody knows we have our coffee mugs here, and the coffee mugs are take a mug with you, please. Thank you. Yeah, take one. We got one that nothing came out on it, so it was a blank. They shot a blank out of the machine there, which was the first time I've ever seen anything like that. It's a completely white mug. Why don't you grab one so we can show everybody? Thanks, Daniel. Let's show everybody. They're $10, and 100% of what we bring in goes to the Community Foundation. And I know after we have Jim on, we're going to talk about the Community Foundation and what you have going on. So come on down to Pete's. It's $10 for the mug, and I know that's probably more expensive. I don't know how much a mug costs, but all the money, 100% of the money is going to go to the Community Foundation here on the beach. So why don't you take care of the Fort Myers Tiki tours real quick, and then we will have Jim Aderholt coming on, and Jim is, of course, Jim is the town council member, and we're going to talk about some more water stuff, and he's got a great idea going on. So stay tuned for that. And right now, let's throw it over to camera number 2.
Which you've put me right in their way, and they're so busy today. But we're going to talk about the Fort Myers Tiki Tours, who I assume is also extremely busy this weekend and will continue to be. They're located behind Parrot Key and Caribbean Grill, over by Salty Sam's Marina. The phone number is 239-887-0042. And what you get there is you get a private boat tour for up to 4 people for $119.99 or 6 people for $179.99. Make sure you tell them you heard it here, or you might not get that. What you're going to do is you're going to be treated to a 90-minute cruise along the bay on this amazing floating tiki boat. And you'll have 6 little seats sit around. You get to bring your own food and whatever you want to drink. They supply the cooler, the ice, and of course the captain, who's Coast Guard certified. And we'll give you information, let you relax. You can have a good time. Everybody's going to be taking your picture because it's such a cute and unique thing to see out there. You can go out there for a multitude of different reasons. You could just go out there because you're here on vacation. You could go for a special event like somebody's birthday, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day. Go out there and get engaged. Any celebration really lends itself to the Tiki Tour. So go ahead and give them a call at 239-887-0042 to make your reservation. And now I'm going to talk to you, as he has gone off, about Sanibel Carts. Cruise the islands in style. You can get street legal electric vehicles, and they do have some gas-powered carts. They go 4 or 6 passenger carts. They have a variety of packages available depending on how many days you need the cart. You can come to wherever you're staying, park your car, and go out on these carts. It's so much fun. You can, they drop it off fully charged or fully gassed up, and they pick it up when you're all done. So there's nothing you have to do special about that. You want to give them a call at 239-500-CART. That's 239-500-CART. And that is sanibel-carts.com for more information. Give them a call.
Very nice, dear. Very nice. And for the record, I want to let you know that both your mom and your dad are going back and forth on the Facebook chatting about that's the best part of the show. Isn't that just like parents to say so much nice stuff? What did I throw you off? Because I had to go to the bathroom?
And you get up and leave, and then you're talking to somebody. So I don't know.
All right.
I don't think it was as smooth, but I appreciate both
totally
my parents
smooth,
participating today.
And ladies and gentlemen, with a bunch of artificial applause from our artificial audience, Look, Jim Aderholt is with us, town council member Jim Aderholt, and it looks like he's got graphs and charts. I can't wait to see all that.
Visuals.
Jim, how are you?
Good morning. Nice to be with you this morning.
Thanks you so much for coming on once again. We appreciate it. You're always great to us and gracious to come on the show, and it's always much nicer when you bring your lovely wife like you have.
She's got her Beach Talk Radio cap and her new mug that she got this morning, which she's admiring greatly.
Yes,
great.
Very nice. So how are things going on the council? How do you, now it's been a year now.
It's been a year. March was the election, and one of the things you guys were kind of have me on a couple times during the campaign process, and one of the things we talked about was clean water, and you rightfully kind of joked about every candidate being for clean water. And what I was pitching at the time was an idea to try to get our Snowbirds involved in the advocacy program for clean water. And we finally got an initiative. My colleagues on the council have been very supportive. The town's been supportive. And we've got something we're going to launch in the next couple of weeks that I want to talk about this morning. And you guys have been kind of do some articles about it on your website as well, which have been great. And I want to just give a little background on what we're going to, on our approach, if I could.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think it's such a unique idea. It's something different rather than, all the other good things that we hear, like don't do this or do that. But this is really a unique opportunity for people to get involved.
Just in a nutshell, now you'll have to tell me how to hold this. Maybe Kim, you hold it. It'd be better if you hold it. But this is kind of the pitch. This is going to be a mail piece that we're going to do 2 of these to all the households on Fort Myers Beach. And the mantra is the town of Fort Myers Beach wants you. Enlist in the fight for clean water now. And there's Uncle Sam, and there's our pier in the back with our logos and so forth. And on the back, it kind of tells you how, as much as you can do on a postcard. And we're going to do similar pieces like this in advertisements in all the regional newspapers around the Fort Myers Beach area. And I think it'll be a really good hit. And with shows like yours and your newsletter and other some of the environmental groups John offered this morning to push this out under his social media. Captains for Clean Water are going to push it out through Jackie Lesick in the chamber. They're going to push it out. So we'll have a whole media campaign and hopefully we'll get the word out. So here's the pitch. And if you wouldn't mind, let me filibuster for a minute because it's kind of a complicated, long story, but in a nutshell, everybody remembers 2018. We had this massive red tide hit and blue-green algae to Fort Myers Beach. It was almost apocalyptic, and it was like a science fiction movie. It was sheer devastation, the piles of dead fish, the smell, the toxins pouring out. There was no birds left on the island. They'd all left. The people, was like a ghost town on Fort Myers Beach. The smell, it was horrific. And it hit in the summer of 2018 and in the fall, and it just lingered, and it was just really devastating. Again, a lot of it's coming from this nutrient pollution that John talked about, coming from Lake Okeechobee down to Calusa. It's also going east as well, causing problems on the East Coast. So we had this massive devastation. We had gubernatorial election in 18. Got a new governor coming in 18. I'm a little more optimistic maybe than John is on the state front because our new governor, Governor DeSantis, really was solid on the clean water issue. Came out with this plan to save $2.5 billion over 4 years. Huge amount of money, particularly compared to how little we were doing in the past. So that's really $625 million a year. So his first year, and credit to the Florida legislature as well, they passed over $625 million in 2019. In 2020, which was just this last year, with all the pressures of COVID, the governor had to make some really tough decisions, but he prioritized clean water, $625 million again, plus some additional programs passed. So the first 2 installments have been made. So we're now into installment number 3 this year. The difference this year is there are no elections this year. So, I mean, there are some local elections in Sanibel, et cetera, but in terms of statewide and nationwide, there really are no elections that impact those who are setting water policy. So the goal is to enlist all these wonderful snowbirds who come to Fort Myers Beach, who love our island, and get them to put some pressure on our politicians at both the federal and the state level, those who visit from all over Florida, to put some pressure on these politicians, of which I'm one of them. I know how it works. To do that in an off election year cycle. You talk about campaign fundraising and finding, follow the money, et cetera. So there's a lot of understandable cynicism about politics because of finance, campaign finance. But I'll be honest with you. I worked for a member of Congress for 16 years, both in D.C. and in the district office. I've worked for a governor. I've been an elected state representative. The money is a big part of our process. But when you get a letter from your constituent that's handwritten or typed out and hand signed, and it's from the district in which these folks represent, it has such an impact on these folks. They really watch, because these are the people that can put them out of office. They're the people that can reelect them, and that really matters. So what we're trying to do is get the snowbirds down here. We call it the Snowbird Advocacy Army. We want folks who are visiting Fort Myers Beach. You have listeners from all over the country, all over the world. For those of you who are listening, what we're encouraging you to do is write a letter to your U.S. congressman. We have 435 congressmen.
I just want you to know, Jim, that I put that up there as you're explaining it. I put up the links if anyone wants to jump on there so that they can click on that. It's on our website now, Beach Talk Radio News, and go ahead and explain where they'd be linking through and sending a letter.
That's beautiful. Take a look at those links, but you can just Google who your congressperson is. Many of you know who your congressperson is. Every state, of course, has 2 United States senators. So the goal is, again, if you're outside of the state of Florida, if you're not a resident of Florida, wherever you're located, is to write your congressperson a letter and your 2 United States senators. And again, why this is a little different, a little more complicated, but I think more effective, is we want you in the first part of the letter to say why clean water is important to you. You've been coming to Fort Myers Beach every 20 years or for 20 years, and you love the water. You love to swim. You love to boat. Maybe you love to fish. Maybe you love the environment. You love to bird watch, shell collect, whatever. Make it personal to you, and tell that elected official why clean water in this area, and particularly in Florida, is important to you. And then encourage them to do something. Say, could you please co-sponsor some legislation that furthers Everglades restoration or clean water in Florida? And if you really want to make an impact, ask that member of Congress or the United States Senator to say, hey, please write the chair of the House Appropriations Committee and the ranking member. And in this case now, after the election, it's a Democrat chair and Republican ranking member. Ask that member of Congress to write the chair and say, hey, we are supportive of, this member of Congress and my constituency is supportive of clean water. Please advance Everglades restoration efforts in the appropriations process. And then do the same thing to your 2 United States senators. So you can either type out the letter and hand sign it, make sure your return address is on the envelope, slap that first class stamp on the envelope. Because right now, what politicians see, there's so many, we call it AstroTurf lobbyists. I actually did some lobbying in my previous life as well. And you get these computer-generated form letters. You get postcards. People are calling on the phones. I tell you, that has some impact, but it's marginal because everybody knows it's sort of corporate lobbying. But if you get actual indigenous, motivated personal letters from your constituents, these members of Congress, I saw it firsthand. They see these letters. It has an impact. The staff sees them. They inform members before votes. They inform them on what legislation to co-sponsor, what legislation to push. And right now, in this off-year cycle, when there is no election, there's a lot of competition for dollars at both the state level and at the federal level. Now, at the federal level, Governor DeSantis comes in 2019, gets full funding for Everglades Restoration Act, which is federal. It's a federal matching program with the state, $200 million. Again, President Trump, to his credit, and the Congress fully funded the Everglades Restoration Act, the second time in its 20-year history it's ever been fully funded. Last year, again, because of the election and because of the DeSantis' relationship with Trump, we got $250 million of federal dollars, again, fully funded Everglades restoration at the federal level. And with this new administration, again, this is a completely nonpartisan issue. Expect the new administration to be supportive, but they need to hear from folks. The new the governing powers, the Democrats in the House and the Senate, they need to hear from the voters that this is still important. It's particularly important in this non-election year. So thanks for the filibuster, but it is a complicated issue. But people really, I know there's a lot of cynicism in politics, but if a member of Congress in Ohio gets 25 letters, or even quite honestly 10 handwritten letters or personal letters that aren't form letters, they pay attention. So again, having the Snowbird impact, and again, the objective of having advertisements in the newspapers is not only to impact people who are visiting down here all over the region, but hopefully some other towns and cities in Southwest Florida will also copy this idea and encourage their folks to get in touch as well. And then we could have a nice, I think we could have a pretty positive impact on both the national picture, but also, again, the people who live here in Florida and visit, they need to go contact their state representative, and their state senator. They've got one state senator, one state representative. You can Google that. Ed's got the links there on his website as to how to find who those folks are. But you need to write that state rep and that state senator as well, because again, the state of Florida, that's not all on the coast. You've got ag interests, you've got education interests, you've got a lot of pressure for these dollars. And the Senate president right now has expressed some real skepticism towards these new reservoirs that are being built. And he could thwart some progress. So we need to tell these folks, again, the Senate president, he's Senate president because he was elected by his colleagues in the Senate caucus. If his caucus says, hey, we want these reservoirs, we want to have this overflow controlled so we're not polluting the Caloosahatchee and therefore our bay. And so you've got to make sure the legislature at the state of Florida knows of your passion as well.
Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us today, folks. And
sorry,
no,
but there's so much information.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's a good point. There is so much information, and I know you talked about not having a pat form letter because it is more relevant and you want people to speak from their heart. But is there a place where they can maybe pick up some information, because it is so it is so complicated? Is there on the
I think that's where these
somebody who might not know, okay, I want to write a letter because I want clean water, but I don't know what to put in it because I'm not really sure what I'm asking for. I just want to make sure I have clean water.
Like a form letter,
it can get complicated.
Yeah, just some.
It's very complicated. I think the first paragraph should be why clean water is important to you.
Okay.
And then all you need to do is say, I want you to support or co-author legislation that supports clean water efforts. And if it's at the federal level, the Everglades Restoration Act. So again, but if you need more information, that's where groups like John's group that was here earlier, your guest, they have the more of the broader scientific background. Captains for Clean Water, all of these environmental groups are really great resources to understand the issue better. But where my background comes is to how to take that expertise and then advocate it in a way that makes policy changes for the better, hopefully for clean water. That's what we're talking about this morning. So
and these are going to go out to local residents?
These will be mailed to every resident on the island of Fort Myers Beach, and it'll be every household. So that means even the renters will get it. And those will hopefully be our snowbirds. It won't just be registered voters. These will be every every household will get one. So again, if you're renting a house and you're from out of town, you'll see this. It'll show you how to get in touch with your member of Congress back home in Ohio. But if you're renting from Miami, you can get in touch with your state representative and your state senator. Again, the Floridian Advocacy Reserves. This is the military thing we're talking about. If you live in the state of Florida, Snowbird Advocacy Army. If you live outside the state of Florida,
are you making all these up, or are they actual organizations?
Well, they've been created as part of this campaign.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
yes, I'm making them up, but they're not really organizations. They're to help people kind of conceptualize the difference between how people outside the state of Florida can help, but how the people in the state of Florida can help as well.
What about, is there any thought to or a way to get them into the hotels?
So we are going to have extra copies printed at the town. So if hotels are interested in putting those in their lobbies, that's a great idea, Kim. I've been in touch with Jackie Lisek at the chamber. She wants to be very supportive, so I'm sure she can help us get the word out in that way through groups like your earned media opportunities are tremendous. I mean, it's just going to take kind of a broad effort, but it can't just be Fort Myers Beach. My hope is that Cape Coral copies this, Sanibel, Marco Island, all these coastal communities who have a lot of influential people coming to visit, and then they go back home and hopefully they'll reach out and have an impact.
Debbie
and
says,
please let us know if you write a letter. Type it in the box and let us know when you write a letter.
Debbie says she'd love to have it at her vacation rental. So make sure you get her name after the show.
Beautiful. Thank you. Excellent.
So are you happy with the way things are going so far water-wise?
I'm John raises issues of growth and long-term challenges, but in terms of where we were as a state a couple of years ago and where we are now, I mean, we have serious funding pouring in because these are massive infrastructure programs. I mean, these are giant reservoirs. I mean, I'm no scientist, but to dumb this down, what we're trying to do over the last 100 years, development has caused the water to flow east and west. It's flowing through the Caloosahatchee. All the runoff is going from Lake Okeechobee down the Caloosahatchee. We've got runoff problems in the Caloosahatchee as well. It flows into the bay and it exacerbates red tide and it causes blue and green algae in the canals. what we're trying to do is to change that whole water flow. Instead of going east-west, it flows naturally like it did in the past down south through the Everglades, because the Everglades, as you guys know, is sort of a natural filter, and it naturally cleans the water, and it's the way the water needs to flow. So that involves building these massive reservoirs, and it means elevating these highways that go east-west so the water can flow underneath. I mean, these are massive infrastructure programs. So, yeah, I mean, we still have some challenges on growth, but if we don't make these infrastructure changes quickly, and quite frankly, they are being made right now. I mean, they're being built. You had the gentleman from Sanibel on the other day who chairs the water district. I mean, these are massive projects that involve huge funding. And so finally, in the last 2 years, you've seen a commitment at both the state and federal level, which is very encouraging. And hopefully I'll spin this as be part of the Fort Myers Beach Renaissance as we clean up water, as we do all these other wonderful things to our island.
Every time we bring you on from now into the future, if you ever come back, when we hope you do, we'll call you the Renaissance Man, because that you're starting to spread that joy and cheer across the beach.
I'm not sure I'm that interesting, but I appreciate the thought. Yeah.
So the Everglades restoration project, can it ever be restored? I mean, how long is this going to take, and how much money is it going to take over the long run?
It's literally billions, and it involves, again, elevating highways so water can pass underneath, again, flow naturally north south. And and then these giant reservoir systems, so they can manage when and how the water flows down the Calusa Hatchie. And so it's the appropriate balance, because you need some water to flow, because it has to do with salination. Again, smarter people than I can explain all that. But it's a 10-year program. But this is the first time in a long time that the funding piece has been serious, and it's addressing, again, most of the and it's also got septic tank conversion dynamics to it. There's a new resiliency piece to this whole thing. So, I mean, there's all kinds of dynamics going on. And it used to be just hot air and rhetoric, but now there's actual funding backing it up, which I think will have a huge impact. I think we'll start seeing this reservoir that the state senator, the Senate president, was contesting, that has the ability to reduce nutrient pollution down the Calusa Hatchie to our area by over half. And, that's a huge impact. I mean, when you talk about cutting at 50%, that's a big deal. And that, they've already broken ground on it. I mean, you could see the giant explosions. They're building this giant reservoir, and it's happening now. So it's not a pipe dream. That's why we got to keep the pressure on.
So anything else on the water? I want to throw some quick, fast, innocent questions at you. So the nuisance abatement board was something that you were really for. Are you happy with the makeup of who you have?
I think we have great people on the nuisance abatement board. They're practical people. Anybody who still has concerns about the nuisance abatement board, I would just give you some peace in saying that the bar for the nuisance abatement board to even come into being is so high. 2 felony counts in over a 6-month period. And again, it's the initial phase will be conversations. And it's not, it doesn't have to be draconian. My thought will be that the nuisance abatement board likely will never meet. That doesn't mean it wasn't a success, because it's out there. It's a deterrent for entities that have habitual problems that aren't being responsive to the community. If you're being responsive to the community and to the sheriff's office and to the code enforcement folks, it won't be necessary. But again, this is high bar items. I mean, so folks that are worried about the smaller code enforcement things, it has nothing to do with that. These are felony crimes that are habitually being committed on the island. It's really more of a deterrent dynamic. But the people that are on it are smart people. We've got business people on there. We've got people that have served this island in a very responsible way over the years. And I think it's going to be fine. And I'm glad I appreciate their service, but I doubt we'll ever have to use them.
The 3 major projects, Bay Oaks, Bayside Park, and Times Square, are you happy with the way they're coming along?
Well, I think Winston Churchill said democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others. And so it's never been a pretty process. But I do think we're making progress. I mean, we're with the Bayside Park, we're ready to launch, and I wish we could have got a little bit more input from the neighbors and the businesses around there. But we are making progress on that. Times Square has a beautiful vision. There's still all we're fighting about now is the sale, which I hope we don't have, because I think it blocks the view. But when you have a massive project like Times Square and that's all you're fighting about, that's pretty good dynamic. We're going to keep the clock. But everything else is going to be beautiful. And there's some discussion about delaying that for a little bit to be sensitive to the merchants down here, which I totally understand. Gives us a little bit more time for some grant opportunities. And then the Bay Oaks project, I think it's going to be really spectacular. It's a brand new community center where one doesn't exist. Hopefully we'll have a longer term plan to address the exercise facility there. But I think there's some neat opportunities. on all three of those projects, combined with all the other things we've been talking about on Estero Boulevard, the new bridge on the south end, the new foot of the bridge on the north end. I mean, it's back to that Renaissance dynamic. You couple that with cleaner water coming down, with all the development, with Margaritaville. This is such an exciting time. You talk to local realtors on this island, they are swamped because there's so much excitement, so much optimism for Fort Myers Beach. I know we get caught up in a lot of the negative stuff, and it's important to hash those things out. But the broader vision for Fort Myers Beach is really spectacular. It's taken off.
I just want to ask, of all of those projects that you mentioned, is there any way, or is it too early yet to say are they all going to happen at the same time, or this is slated to go first, second?
Do you read the newsletter?
I didn't get to that
it's
part.
Bayside
Go ahead.
Park for sure.
But it is Bayside. But your question is actually a really good one in the sense that it's whoever's going to have to manage Margaritaville with the foot of the bridge, with Times Square, with Estero Boulevard, other infrastructure needs, stormwater and water main issues. I mean, it's going to be a master. It's going to be like a conductor of an orchestra because it really needs to be sensitive because we're going to have traffic. We already have traffic challenges. So you couple that with our lighting challenge. We've got some massive things that are going on. So hopefully we could all get together and everybody communicates with each other. And we do that in as smartly and as smart and efficient as you can, because you're right. We're setting ourselves up for a real challenge with coordinating it to go smoothly together. But boy, when it's done, just as we've seen with Estero Boulevard, it's going to be spectacular.
So the real quick, a short answer is fine. The Lonnie Kai said they were going to incorporate some changes to help out with the safety over there. Are you happy with how they've been doing?
I'm happy that they've made that pledge. I hope they'll come back to the council and give us an update. I've not seen anything recently from them, but their initial pledge and the steps that they were going to take, I think were positive. But I'd love to see them come back and give us an update, Ed, because I don't really know how all that's been going.
Is there anything you want to say, and you don't have to if you don't want to, about the Dune walkover?
Well, the Dune walkover, I'll just be honest with you, our town attorney tells us that our case is very strong. And so I always say that the Dune walkover, it's very clear it's in the interests of those two homeowners. I absolutely acknowledge that. But where I wrestle is I don't know that it's in the town of Fort Myers Beach interest to do that. That's a beautiful, really pristine area back there. And to build a giant bridge back there, I'm still uncomfortable with it. But the litigation's proceeding. I know there's it's very controversial. I'm watching the litigation. I know the town has some exposure there. But again, our lawyers are telling us that we've got a very strong case. I don't have any ill will against the people that are applying for this. I understand why they want it. I wish them well, but I just don't think it's in the town's interest.
Does it worry you at all that the critical wildlife area might go away?
I think that again is difficult to know at this point. It does. It's something I'm sensitive to, but I think there's a little bit of hyperbole around that. Maybe there's not. We just, when you get into people say, oh, the negotiations are done, we're going to court. Well, anyone knows that you can settle at any time.
Right.
And so if there's something that comes up that would be against the town's interest or against the critical wildlife area, I'm certainly willing to listen. But right now, I don't see this project as being in the town's interest.
When you see all these people down here that you've been seeing, how does that make you feel about the economy on the beach and how things are looking once everybody starts to get the vaccine and people start to feel better? I mean, I can't imagine living in Michigan or states like California where they were so locked down and it didn't seem to do them any better.
I love where we're positioned in terms of the state of Florida. Our economy is in such better shape. There's such you looked at folks down here that, first of all, the crowds are spectacular. And the optimism, again, particularly coupled with the vaccine, I just see people seeing light at the end of the tunnel. And I just hope folks are encouraged by that, coupled with all the wonderful things happening on the island. I just see a great sort of that light that's shining on the hill. It's right there. That beacon. And we're almost there. And it's been a really rough year. And it's, but I think hopefully we'll all we've had a tough election. This virus has caused a lot of dissension. I'm just hoping we could all come together after this is all over and move forward together.
Trivia question for you.
Yes,
what
please.
is the most fishingest bridge in all of the United States of America? That's a great line. It was a great
bring
line.
Up the lights. I thought you were gonna.
I couldn't remember everything. I'm having a rough day. So yeah,
let's talk about the lights. We had a I don't know how you describe it. We had a presentation from Florida Power and Light. that was really more of a generic PowerPoint. I was glad they were there. But the one thing that has changed on the light front is they've offered us 3 alternatives that they didn't offer before that are turtle friendly. And if we could find one of those that makes sense for the island and then utilize there's a number of poles that don't have lights on them.
So that was when I heard that, I was like, well, it would seem like that would be a good opportunity to use those lights with, and maybe that would throw enough light.
And maybe that's the answer, Kim. I think if you take the existing lights, replace them with the turtle-friendly lights, and then you put lights on poles that don't currently have lights. Again, there's a lighting expert the
photometrics and all of that.
It is a science. There's no question about it. But the key thing to remember is this: why are we dependent upon FP&L? Is because there's a tariff which they have, which allows these to be cost recovered by the utility. In other words, the town of Fort Myers Beach does not have to pay for these lights if we utilize Florida Power and Light's option. If we don't, then it comes out of our pocket or the county's pocket, and there's some debate as to who's got responsibility between the county and the town.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but FPL owns those poles.
That's right.
Poles. So if you don't use them,
it's a huge investment.
A huge investment. I mean, the upside of that is then you own it, but that's a huge upfront.
It takes a long time to recover those costs if you invest in your own poles and light fixtures. And again, this is what they do. They are a monopoly, but they have an obligation. They're a heavily regulated monopoly. They've got an obligation to serve our community, and we're hoping they'll be more responsive. These 3 new options give us some flexibility now, and hopefully we'll get this done with this lighting consultant. And it really shouldn't take long, but with what you suggested, the new adding on to the new
lighting
poles. No, I know, but I mean,
but
I listened to the same thing. Yeah. I thought, we've got these poles that we're not utilizing. We've got a fixture that's going to be paid for by FP&L. Let's just do it. Let's move. I mean, somebody's got to look at it from a scientific standpoint, but I think we're close to being able to go.
I guess too. I just let me ask this one thing.
You're like FPL today. You're monopolizing all the questions.
Well, FPL does. I mean, they're all over the place. And I didn't watch the entire thing, but were they able to bring up other places that they've done this? Because it just seems like, how can it be so intricately unique to just here? Maybe it is. I don't know.
It's a great point. I know you're going to ring the bell for that, but it is a great point. But why do we have to reinvent the wheel? There's so many coastal communities, but it seemed like FP&L was reticent to recommend anything for our island. Either they didn't want to be responsible or liable, but they're the experts. Yeah. They've seen what's worked in other islands. Why can't they just suggest something?
They kept asking you guys, what do you guys want?
Yeah, and we know we want really bright lights, as bright as possible, that don't affect the turtles. I mean, help us. I mean. So
Jim, you were nice to FPL today, but that day you were close to being as livid as you can get. You were not happy with the presentation, and you felt like they're leaving you hanging, and somebody's going to get hurt on that road.
Well, it's bad. It's really, you drive, especially with construction. It's so bad right now. And Florida Power and Light came to us. Again, happy to have them there, but they was so generic, and they didn't have any solutions for us. But they did provide some options that hopefully we'll be able to utilize with their. I know folks are concerned about the lighting consultant, but you really do need someone with a science background and a lighting background. Fortunately, on the council, Dan Allers is a lighting expert, and then we also have an electrical engineer with Bill Veach. So we've got some science on the council, which will really be helpful. And so hopefully, it just doesn't seem like we're that far from the solution. We ought to be able to move quickly. Right. I hope we can.
Is there anything else you want to cover before anything more on the water? By the way, I want to make sure we give a shout out to Jenny Dexter. She's been very helpful in getting the information out. And I'm sure that the links, in addition to them being in the print, which as we've had the discussion, they're hard to kind of just click on when people are so used to having things instant. They'll be probably on the website, and they'll be pushing them out on the Facebook page so that if you don't want to type them in on your computer, you'll be able to go to the social media pages or the town's clunky website and find out where you can get the links and actually follow through with the letters that you want them to get out.
I've made some of the Ed's been very helpful behind the scenes, helping me with some social media ideas, and Jenny's been great. And so I think between all these ideas and smarter people than I am on this, so I'm old school. I'm a newspaper guy. I'm a direct mail guy. But the social media piece is a big part of the component. But having some of these groups like John's group and Captains for Clean Water, having them help push it out as well. I think we're going to really have a neat opportunity to impact things in a positive way.
Well, anything we can do to help, we're always here for you.
You've
We
been great.
appreciate
You've
you
been
coming
great.
on.
Yeah, thanks for
Thank
giving
you.
some additional exposure to this idea.
Anything you need, just let us know.
Bless your heart. Thank you
Jim
very much.
Need
Aderholt,
your letter.
everybody. Jim Aderholt, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Town
Thank you.
council member, and they're going to go out and enjoy the beach today. Thank you for buying a mug and supporting the Community Foundation, and we'll make sure that we get all that information out so people know. Jim Aderholt, town council member. Dear, you're just sitting there. You're puzzled in the whole thing. And
What am I puzzled
the
about?
escape route from the show is awkward. We need to figure out, so people feel like, what is the exit strategy from the
They just
show?
walk from here to there.
So
That's it.
I want to real quick talk before we talk about the Community Foundation and how you're helping about beach pottery, because you were there. And Alana and those guys have 5,000 or 10,000 or 700 million pots that they have. They're all over the place. You drive by Beach Pottery, and that's San Carlos Boulevard, 17980. You see it on the right-hand side. Some of you, if you came to the beach late or coming to the beach late, you're going to get stuck in traffic. So you might as well just stop there.
Right.
And check out all they have, because they have more than pots. They have, carved stuff that you'd like to have in your back, or
They
chairs.
have some amazing, lawn furniture that lasts forever and is beautiful and comes in a multitude of colors. They have the carvings that the guy does with the chainsaw, which are amazing.
Right. 8,000 pots to be exact. And I don't know if it's 8,000 on the nose, or if they sold one,
I think
do they have one sitting in a warehouse, so it never goes
I
below
don't think they have
8,000?
a little clicker counting them off.
That would be
so.
cool. And they're from Vietnam. If you have a pot at your house and it's not from Vietnam, you have shit. You have to have a pot from Vietnam from Beach Pottery. And the phone number to call, if you want to call and say, hey, can I get a pot from Vietnam, is 437-4211. And that's 437-4211. And make sure you tell Alana and Kurt, who was on the show a few weeks ago. You can go back into the archives and check out his interview. They do a great job, and we appreciate that they're sponsors of the show. And go buy a damn pot, will you? Stop being so cheap with your money. Get out there and support the local advertisers.
Well, I know one thing I liked is that they're customizable. So you could have the Ryan family on a flower pot, and they're very colorful.
We'd need a small pot then, because we don't have a big family.
Well, it's not that. It's just I don't really have a green thumb, so that would be the issue.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. But thank you, Debbie, who wants to buy a mug or two. She's always supportive of the show.
Very supportive.
And Judy said that you can go on to the website and donate to the show. So people are being very nice today. We appreciate that. And of course, what would be best for us if you're out and about visiting the beach, you stop at Nervous Nellie's and La Ola and everybody that's a sponsor. But what's going on with the Community Foundation? Speaking of all that,
they're getting ready to launch their first ever virtual auction. March 11th, it will launch, and it runs through the 20th. So, you can shop and look at the items any time of day. You can look from the comfort of your home, whether your home is here or way up there. They are going to have lots of different categories and items to bid on, to include hotel stays, art items, jewelry, excursions and activities, gift cards to come to lots of the local restaurants here. Just a multitude and a plethora. I see how you changed my word.
Sorry, Kristen, you're
plethora.
right. Kristen says she's always nice. You guys are right. You're always nice. I appreciate that very much. And your job this year was, I'm just talking with the audience, dear. That's all.
You're trying
it's
to
an inside
pull me out my
thing.
game.
Yeah. That you were kind of responsible for going around and asking for donations.
Oh, don't say no.
And that's not really something you're used to doing or good at. You're
I'm not responsible for any of that. There's many women that are in that group that are going out and getting. I just did a couple little places that I'm familiar with that we know to help them out.
If I could give you a little advice from one professional to another, you shouldn't be afraid to ask for donations. People like to give, dear. It's a giving world these days. So
I will.
Yeah.
And if anyone else would like to give, I know.
Oh, how dare you keep asking? Enough is enough already.
Pete's gave me their stuff today. I'm excited about that. Island Oils is getting involved.
Very nice.
Margaritas is getting involved.
Nice.
The Snellies is getting involved. So
Nice segue,
if I
dear.
haven't reached out to you,
And you want to get
please
involved.
let us know. We do need to get that stuff in soon because pictures, they'll put your business up, your logo up. This is really going to be help businesses as well to thank them for their donation, give them some exposure, get people in your doors or heads in beds and forks in mouths.
Okay, and a nice little segue for our final sponsor before our last segment of the show. The folks at Don't Itch It, folks. It's crazy out there. You're out boating. You're out sitting by the fireplace. You're getting ready to sit on the beach. And the temperature might change a little bit. It's going to be nice and hot today, but a couple nights ago it was chilly. So you might want to make sure you keep the bugs away. We were sitting out in the back last night.
No, I have to tell you what happened this morning. I went to take the dogs out.
Yeah.
And I was getting dive bombed by these, I don't know whether it was mosquitoes. It sounded like a bee. I mean, they were in my ear. I dropped the leashes for the dogs and was like,
craziness.
It was crazy.
I get big giant balls of wax in my ear. I don't know if that's
I don't
from bugs
think that the bug spray or the Don't Itch It is going to help with that, but it certainly would have helped me this morning if I had been.
One time, I don't know if I told this story on the air before we get back to the commercials. I went to the ER once because I thought I was losing my hearing.
We've all heard this story
and it was
before.
a big giant ball of wax.
Don't
so
waste
that was
the ER
well, that was
time.
but I had good insurance back then.
So
don'titchit.com, ladies and gentlemen. You thought I lost my place, didn't you? You're going to go to islandoilsllc.com or don'titchit.com and place an order because you want the bug spray sitting on your back patio, or you never know where they're going to attack, and it's one of those things where you want to have it when you need it because you're going to need it at some point. And if you need it and it's not there, then you're screwed. Then you're just going to have to deal with the bugs.
And it doesn't have DEET. It's 100% essential oils, DEET free, no water, no chemicals, no synthetics. It smells great. It's got, I can't remember. He reeled off all the essential oils that are in there.
Yeah, go back to episode a couple of weeks ago.
Locally made.
Yeah, so get online. And when we ordered it online.
Thanks to Corey for coming on the show most recently.
When we ordered it online, it was there in like a day or two. So that was, it comes right out and gets delivered to you right away. So don'titchit.com and islandoilsllc.com. So there you go. Reel him in, Kim. Greg saying, I didn't even know Greg was out there in the audience. So we had a nice big audience because when you talk about water, nothing's more important than the water.
That's right.
Water has got to be clean.
It is the economy.
When will the water ever be clean? I feel like we'll be talking about the water forever.
Well, I hope not. I hope that we'll reach the level that they all want to be at so that everybody can enjoy it and all of those. I mean, it's so a multitude of issues that are affecting it. So it's not just one thing. It's not just sewer. It's not just Lake O. It's not just, ag. It's a bunch of things that come together.
I'll have to Google multitude later so I know what that means. So, all right, folks. Well,
thank you so much to all of our guests who came
great
on.
guests today. John Cassani, Jim Aderholt.
From the Waterkeepers. Please go and check out their website. I'm interested in that Ranger program. So
and don't forget to take care of the guys at the Sun Deck when they're open back up again. You want to go visit them for their freak fire that happened the other night. They're closed for a few days.
And thanks to Jim Aderholt, always
I
special.
said that already. Yeah,
right.
we enjoy having everybody on. Yes,
to write those letters.
That's right, and we will keep those links up on our website for as long as we need to, so that you guys can get in touch with your elected officials, because you need to keep your feet to the fire with these elected officials. Because their feet to the fire, your feet to the fire, and we want clean water. We want the Everglades restored. So I'm playing the music underneath there. You got to
just going on and on. Right. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Bye bye.